C# in the web. We're going to make and view a website eventually, but before we do that, let's take a look at how we view an HTML file in a browser. So here is an HTML file. I'm going to make this file in Notepad or any text editor, then I'm going to save it. It basically starts off with matching tags, HTML tags, and this is the body of the text, and this should actually is the text which will eventually appear in a browser, as we will see. So I'll close that, and I can see that there on the desktop, and now I'm going to open it up, and I might as well go back to old Internet Explorer just to show you the principle of what Internet Explorer is or was. It's a browser, and a browser is something which looks at HTML. It's what we say renders HTML. So let's take a look. I can go File and then just open that file, and if I go to the desktop and find that file, and we can open that using the browser. Now when I open that, you can see it's what we call rendered onto the, now we haven't gone onto the internet, nothing to do with the internet. This is more or less like a word processor, if you like. A browser, you could say, is like Word or something, where it's just used to open a file. And it's used to open that special file, which is an HTML file. It's got those angle brackets, and so they are instructions. In fact, we can go and take a look at the HTML behind that. Now that's very nice, isn't it? You've got the HTML behind it, which is indicating, now it's more or less like giving instructions to going down to the print shop and saying, listen, I want it printed like this, and these are the instructions on how to do it. You're providing instructions to the browser. So that's what a browser is. A browser is something which is used for looking at HTML. I'm now going to use C# to produce a web. So I'm going to start Visual Studio 2019, and I will create a new project. And the project that I'll be using is ASP.NET Core Web Application. I will click on Next, and it doesn't matter what we call it, Web Application 9, doesn't matter where we put it for the moment for demonstration purposes, so I'll just create that web. And I'll make a web application and create that. So you can see the web that's being created. We'll go through what all these mean eventually, explain all of those, but just for the moment I'm going to run it and just see what it does. So eventually it produces this website with welcome on it. Now let's see where that page exists within our app. Well, I'm looking for an index file, which is always, shall we say, usually the start up page of any website is, well, it used to be index.html. So let's see if we can find something similar. Well, that's about the closest I can get here. Now if I just double click on that and open it, now you can recognize that actually. You can see how it corresponds to the web that we've built here. We've got the welcome written here using H1, which is a heading type, and then I've got a hyperlink in here. You can see this one here corresponds to this bit here. I think I'm going to make my HTML just rather simpler, so I'm going to replace this stuff here with some very simple. I've left that page there for some reason or other, which I'll explain later. So once again, let's just see if I can run that and replicate what we did at the start of the video. So I'll need to stop it. It's running at the moment, and then run it. And eventually we'll get our browser page opening and displaying that bit of HTML. Now you might think that's sort of what we did when we used a browser to look at an HTML file. A static, we call it, a static file, an HTML file. Well, it's actually very different from what we did here. What we've done is actually this application, this web application, has actually placed that code on another computer, which is called a server. And when we run our code, we place that HTML on the server. And when we run our program, we make a request to the server to dish up that page. That server then responds and sends that HTML back to us in what we call a response. And ultimately it becomes rendered in our browser. Now, just to confuse things a little, because when we're just making our demonstration programs, when we're first developing our programs, we don't actually place it on a foreign server. We place it on a server of our own, on our own computer, for development purposes. Now we can take a look at that server. If we take a look at we can find that down in the system tray there, I Express. We could take a look at that, show all the applications that are running on the server, which is our particular web. And incidentally, we see the URL, or which corresponds to this one here, 44395. So this is how you can actually access the web, by typing in localhost, which gets you onto the server, and the particular random number that's allocated, which is called a port number. Later on we'll see how we can place this on a remote server. Perhaps we'll use Azure, but for the moment we're just placing it on our local server.